behind the scenes. Okay.
There we go. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining today. As Erin said, I'm Megan Peters. I'm a realtor here in St. Louis. I'm a solo agent. I've been doing this for 9 years. I just hit my anniversary in June. I taught high school English for 7 years before that. And I'm sure you're all like, why in the world would you ever leave teaching English to high school kids?
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. But I still teach in my business. That's kind of how my business runs. I tell my clients that I'm here to educate you and to advocate for you. And so that teacher blood just never left. And through the years, I've learned a lot of things, some ways the hard way, some ways okay, let's sit down and evaluate this. And so that's kind of where this class came from. In 2024, when all the NAR settlement was happening and we were talking about the new commission structures and how we were going to have to start negotiating for those instead of just someone pre-negotiated for you. People in my office were like, well, I'm going to raise my rates to this number. And I was like, why are you doing that? And they're like, because I can. And I was like, I don't like because I can. So I sat down with my financial advisor husband and we broke down my business and we broke down our expenses at the house and my expenses in my business. And I said, okay, but like we have 2 tiny people and we're very involved in all of the 1,000 activities that they do. And so I don't want to work all the time. I want to be with my kids. I want to do the things. I want to be the coach. I want to be the cub master. I want to be around. And so I said, okay, what does that harmony look like in my life? Because I don't believe in balance. And so we worked together to figure out what number of clients I felt like I could take on and do them justice, do a good job, and be with my kids and my family when I wanted to be with my kids and my family. So that's kind of where this class came from. It was out of, well, I need a reason for why I'm charging what I'm charging. And I want to maintain some semblance of harmony in my life. So it's all some formulas. Now, I used to teach English, so I don't do math. These formulas are very, very simple, but they do require you to be really honest with yourself. So having your P&L will be helpful. We're not here to judge it. We're not here to trim it. Those are completely separate exercises that you should go through. If you haven't, I do encourage you to do that. But our purpose for them today is just to evaluate what we're spending. How much do we want to work because we get to choose? And then what do we need to charge on the other side of that? So we're all going to use the same formula, but our numbers are all going to be very different depending on what you spend and how much you're willing to work. So I'll lead you through all of those things in just a little bit. So I hope at the end you have some clarity around what you're spending. And then if you decide in this evaluation, like, maybe I don't need to spend that much, or like, wow, I don't spend as much as I thought I did. I don't need to work as hard as I thought I did. I hope some of that clarity comes out of this class. I have some notes in front of me. That's why I keep looking down. I'm a high SC. The teacher in me, like I said, never went away. So I like to follow the rules because you told me to. I'm a rule follower, and I will follow them until time ends, as long as they still make sense. And so when everybody said, well, I'm just going to raise my rates, I said, why? Why are you doing that? So my rate did go up in this exercise. I did realize that, oh, maybe I could actually value myself a little bit more. So anytime I talk about numbers, they're hypothetical, they're suggestions. I may say, this is what I do, and you are going to do something different. So like I said, we're going to use the same formulas, but everybody's number is going to be different at the end of the day because it's based on your business and your life. So just putting that disclaimer out there. In no way are we saying this is what you should do. I'm making suggestions on evaluations you can make in your business to help you decide what you and your value are really worth to your clients. Okay. I think that's my intro. Does anybody have any questions for me before we start?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
We got lots of people on Zoom too. In other rooms. So speak up. This is not a lecture. This is a discussion. So please speak up if you have a question, if you have a comment or a suggestion or anything, please bring that out. Always open. Okay. Okay, we're going to get going then. I'm going to flip over, share my screen, and let's see. Oh, I can tell which one I want. Oh, how fancy is that? Okay, so here we go. This is me. So I'm calling this class Price Your Passion because this is our passion. This is what we love to do. We love to help our clients. We love to make people's lives easier, right? That's probably our goal, is to get people smoothly through transactions. But what is that worth, right? What do you need to charge in order to make all of this make sense? There we go. Okay. So our course objectives, it's really a like 3-part class that I'm going to break into smaller pieces. So we are going to skip this first part of the value proposition. Erin and I just rescheduled that part for next week. So check with her on the reschedule. So we are going to skip that part of it, but we are going to look at your household budget. How much do you need to live the life that you desire? And this is where you have to get really honest about how much you're spending. You need to check your credit cards. You need to check your utility bills. You need to check your ancillary spending. Like I said, I have 2 tiny people and one of them is still in daycare. She's almost done. We almost get a raise. If you have kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But we had to get real about how much that costs. And we had to say, okay, this is how much we spend in real life. And then we had to say, this is how much in real life we are bringing into the house from other sources. So your income, unless you are a solo single person, your income, this real estate income, may not be the only income. Maybe you have rental properties. Maybe you have a spouse. Maybe you have a second business. All of those things are going to be accounted for in some of our calculations. So we're going to look at your household budget, what goes out, what comes in, and then we're going to identify your business budget. How much does it actually cost you to run your business the way that you want to? So do you pay for certain things? Do you charge for certain things? Do you offer an opportunity? I've seen like the menu, and you can use this in the menu if you wanted to. I personally don't have a menu. I have a sliding scale, but you could apply this to a menu if you chose to do that. So we're going to look at what your business actually costs you. What is your coaching? What are your subscription fees? Are you part of any groups that you pay membership dues? All of those things have to get put down so that we know exactly how much we're spending in our business. And then here's the part that you may not have ever done before. You're going to identify the cost of sale for each transaction. So if you always pay for photos, or if you always pay for staging, or if you always budget for coffee for buyers, or whatever you're spending, right? Whatever you're doing, how much does it actually cost you to do a transaction? Because that's also going to matter. As you go into this exercise, you may realize that you spend more or less than you thought you did. So once we have some of those numbers identified, we're going to crunch some numbers. We're going to run some super simple equations. Remember, I said I taught English. I don't math. So we're going to make this super, super easy. And we're going to establish your bare minimum compensation requirements, as well as your profitable compensation requirements. So in order for you to pay your bills, live the life you want to live, run your business the way you want it to run, how much do you have to charge, right? And then how much can we save? We need to plan for taxes. If you don't have any retirement plans, you should probably start working on that. I got a guy. I can help you. So we'll kind of look at those 2 numbers and make sure that all of that makes sense. And then you get to establish the fee schedule at various price points. That makes sense. So in our markets are probably relatively similar. So our price brackets may end up being the same, but you may say, actually, I'm a luxury agent and I don't work with first-time home buyers. And so your price brackets are going to be different because I don't usually work in the luxury market. I usually do have the first-time home buyers or the move-up buyers, right? We don't have a whole lot of those around here. And then, like I said, the optional thing, you can add a menu of services if you choose to do that. But that would be something that you can decide if that works in your business and in the way that you want to run it. Okay, whoops, it skipped all the way to the end. Hang on. Okay, so there's me and my family. I think that was last year's picture. We're big Cardinals fans. We like to be outside. So those are my 2 littles and my husband. Okay, we're going to skip the value statement. We're going to come back to that next time. So let's do this. Okay, Identifying your budget. Erin gave you the printout of the budget worksheet that I have. It should be pretty simple. It's just a fillable thing. There's also an electronic version if you need to use that. But this will help you identify where you're spending. So let's look at that real quick. You have to be real with yourself. I don't know. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Show of hands. How many people filled this out already? A couple? Okay.
She can't.
All
She
right.
says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people in this room. I don't know. One person on virtually. So 8.
Perfect.
And out of you have 16. Oh, one more. No. So 9. And you have 16. So 5 have it.
Perfect.
Right?
Perfect.
7
Okay. So let's look at this budget worksheet. If you don't have it filled out, you can kind of start sketching in some things as we go. But I've got kind of categories for things. I tried to think about places that people spend money. Maybe you have items in here, maybe you don't. Like if you don't have kids in daycare, then you don't need to worry about children's care. But everybody probably has a mortgage or rent, right? Maybe you own your house outright, but you still have to account for taxes, right? So how much on an annual basis do you spend in your mortgage or your rent? Or if you want to track monthly, you could do that. Maybe that's a little bit easier. Be honest with yourself about your food budget. Are you a person that goes out to eat a lot? Do you shop at the grocery store a lot? Do you have a small army of people at your house that you have to feed? All of those are real scenarios, but you have to be honest with yourself. And then your utilities, obviously costs to run your house. Your TV subscriptions. How many of those subscriptions do you have? Do you have Hulu and Netflix and HBO and? Yes, I can put the document in the chat. Give me 1 second.
Good copy, guys.
Oh, here's the chat. There we go. Okay. Let me get back to this one. Okay. Your internet. How much do you pay for that? Unless it's a business expense, and then you could throw it in the bottom here. So we're just talking about household right now. What monthly payments do you have? Lump them together. So I paid off all my student loans. So we are student loan free in the house, but we have a car payment. Do you have other debt? We have a HELOC on our house, and so we make an additional payment on that. Do you have other, I've got a space for credit cards, but do you have one that maybe you are still paying down that you don't add to anymore, but now you're just making payments on it? I would throw that in this category here. Do you have pets? They require food. They require vet visits. So throw them in there. Childcare or tuition, if that applies to you. Auto. This is something we don't always consider, but how much gas do you spend? Are you someone who does regular oil changes? Are you someone who delays maintenance? Any of those scenarios, plug those in. Your insurance. If you have a partner that has insurance coverage, that's great. But if you are on their plan, you probably pay for yours. So how much are you paying each month for insurance? Even if it comes out of their paycheck, I would still plug it in here, unless you're going to say on this other income, you're only calculating your take home. So if you're going to calculate take home only, then you could probably skip insurance if it comes out of your partner's account. But if you are making payments on it, I would go ahead and do that. Entertainment. This can be anything. If you are a concert goer like we are, we love a good concert. We would put that in there. If we are people who like to travel, if we like to go out, I would put your entertainment budget in there. Credit cards. Do you have outstanding balances, or do you spend and then pay them off every month? I would account for those in whichever fashion makes sense. And how much vacation are you taking? How much are you spending on those vacations? Where would you like to go? You could use this as an estimate. Well, I don't go on vacation, but I want to go on vacation. And so I'm going to budget however much I think it's going to take to get me to the place that I want to go. Do you have any home improvement that you do? Are you working on a big project? Do you have a big project that you would like to take on? Do you have small things that you're doing? Plug those in. Do you have any investments? Are you saving for retirement? Do you have specific amounts that you put in an account every month? I would account for those. Savings can be different. Maybe this is your rainy day fund. Maybe this is keeping money in your bank so that when you don't have a closing, hello, July, then you've got something saved and you can pull from that so that in August, when you have closings, yay, thank you, you can still pay your bills. And then do you have dry cleaning bills? Do you buy clothing? I know that in our industry, we don't get to write it off of our taxes, but it's still something that we have to have, right? We still have to look presentable. And then just other, in case I forgot a category or something that applies to you and is not listed here, you've got some space there. So this is just your home budget. How much does it cost you to live your lifestyle? So I have an example. Some of these are real numbers. Some of these are just made up because I was like, I don't know, I'm just going to plug in a number. So in here, I did my monthly expenses on the side because it was easier to kind of break some of these items down. But then some of them, I just made some things up. So once you have your household income done, let's flip down and look at your business. Again, we're not going to do the marker exercise where we're deciding we're spending too much or we need to cut that subscription. Good idea. Not the goal for this class here. We're just going to look at how much are we paying to run our business. Everybody's got a market center cap, right? And so plug in your real thing. Maybe yours is higher, maybe yours is lower. Maybe your office has the forgiveness thing if you bring in cappers. I don't know. Plug in your real numbers. Plug in your royalty. We don't get a choice. We have to pay all of these things. So plug them in. Make sure you're accounting for that. Do you have any splits? Do you want a team? Does your office charge a fee? Do you pay for contract to close? Do you have a salary or do you pay someone else? Well, these are real numbers for like my office. I plugged in real things. So my office cap is 12, royalties 3, obviously. We pay $97 per transaction. So I included that. I pay a TC to do my files just one at a time. So she's $350 a file. So I accounted for that. Do you have any rent that you pay? Do you rent an office? Do you have your own space? Maybe you have like a satellite office. How much do you pay for coaching and education? You should have a coach. You should have a coach. So I put my real number in there. I pay $750 for my coach. Technology. Do you pay for a CRM? Do you subscribe to Inman? Do you have things like that? My market uses Supra. So like I pay for Supra every month. Do you have any referral fees that you pay? Like I run on referrals. Some of them are local people that I just know, but some of them are agent to agent referrals. So I've accounted for paying referral fees because that's part of my business model. So I said 5 deals and I just picked a number to use as an average payout on my referrals. So include, if you do a lot of agent to agent business, include that because those are real expenses that you need to account for as you go through. Do you have office fees? Maybe they're paid monthly, maybe they're paid annually, whatever. And then some of these I just kind of guessed at some things. So do your best unless you have really, really specific records. How much are you spending on office supplies? Do you have to pay for paper? Do you have fancy address stamps? Do you send mailers? I just bought envelopes because I'm about to send out a letter, stamps, anything like that. Does your car run through your business? That's probably your accountant question. But do you have any expenses related to your vehicle for your business? Any equipment or furnishings? Did you buy a new desk? Do you need a new desk? Did you get that new chair? Anything like that. If you pay for business insurance, make sure you include that. Any marketing. So I would include, I guess I did networking, but in memberships, but if you're part of I'm part of 2 chambers. So I included some of those fees in here. But if you spend money on mailers, let's say you do like a just listed postcard for all of your listings, how much are you spending on those? Sponsorships. I budgeted in here so that I could participate in my kids' stuff, right? So let's say there's 5 events that I have planned and I want to be able to donate $1,000 to each of them. I'm budgeting $5,000 for sponsorships? How much are you spending on client gifts? Maybe that's an area that needs to be evaluated, but you have to be honest with yourself. What kind of networking expenses do you have? What kind of memberships do you have? So for KWYP, Erin mentioned that's how we know each other. We pay $39 a month, so it's less than $500 a year. And even in my market that is absolutely saturated with agents that do a lot of networking at the big conferences, I can guarantee that I still get 1 to 2 referrals every year from YP, and it way more than pays for itself. So not to mention the friendships that I've gotten. It's a wonderful community. So tiny little plug for YP. You should come check us out. And then travel. I go to the 3 big conferences, right? Family Reunion, Mega Camp, and then YP does our own summit. We do like a mini 2.5-day conference. So I budget some money to be able to travel for my planes, my hotels, and my food while I'm there. And then what other professional services do you have? Do you pay an accountant? Do you do it yourself? Do you have somebody helping with branding? Do you pay a marketing person to run your social media? Whatever those things are, right? No judgments, just real numbers. We just need to know how much we are actually spending. Does anybody have any questions on this so far? We're just plugging in numbers.
So she did a good job covering everything.
Yeah. You did a good job covering everything.
Good. I've gone through this a couple times, so I've gotten some feedback on things. So I'm looking for more. If something is missing, or if you feel like it's you don't need to do that, I'm open to all the suggestions. Okay, so that's, I don't know, one of the easy parts. Now we need to look at, okay, we have all these numbers in place. What the heck do I do with that? So my total budget annually to run my life the way that I want to run it, to run my business the way that I want to run it. Remember, these are hypothetical. Some of them are real. Some of them I just plugged in. Like, I don't actually have a pet, so I put $300 in there, but I have 2 children. I don't need more that I have to keep track of. So in this example, the total budget to run this life and this business is $351,400. And you're like, oh gosh, that's a lot. So on a monthly basis, almost $30,000 needs to be coming in to cover all of these things on a monthly basis. So what other income sources do you have? Do you have a spouse? Do you have a rental property? Do you have passive income through like a MLM, or do you have a side gig? Do you have a second business related or not related to real estate? It doesn't matter. How much money is coming in from something else? Okay, so we looked at this total budget, how much we have to run, but what other income is providing some assistance? So if you have a spouse, if you have another job, if you have all of those things, account for that, because we need to find out how much business we have to do, right? So in this example, I said 175, super round number, no idea. So actual annual income from real estate. So if I have 175,000 coming in from my spouse, my rentals, my side gigs, whatever, that means that my real estate business needs to make $176,000. Okay, that doesn't seem quite so out of reach. So then let's say that my ideal number of transactions in a year is 35. You get to pick. Maybe that's hellaciously too high, right? Like in real life, I don't want anything to do with 35 transactions. That's too much. That for me, that's not harmony for the things that I want to do. Maybe you're looking at that and you're like, I did that in 6 months. Good for you. That's amazing. I love that for you. That's not my lifestyle. So you get to decide how much you want to do. What feels good for you? I don't believe in balance. I believe in harmony. So where does harmony sit for you? Maybe 35 is too high. Maybe it's too low. Maybe it is just right. Maybe that's a little uncomfortable. We want to be a little uncomfortable, right? That's how we grow. That's how we get better. But the goal here is to see what feels good, what makes sense. And then we're going to make everything else make sense because of that number. So if you're using the digital platform, it'll actually fill in and create things for you. So you don't actually have to do too much math. If you have the paper one, you'll have to do a little bit of math. So if my real estate business in this example needs to make $176,000 and I'm willing to do 35 transactions to get there, that means my absolute minimum compensation to live my life the way I want to live it, to run my business the way I want to run it, I need to charge $5,040 per transaction. Now, this is not accounting for, well, I do more listings than I do buyers. I don't always have control over that. I'm saying I want to do 35 transactions in this example. So that means every single transaction needs to charge at least $5,000. Okay. Now you get to play with these a little bit. So this is some suggestion. You get to play with the percentages. You get to decide if you want to accommodate for these things or not. So this is additional profit. The MREA says we should be at the 30, 30, 40, right? So I'm adding 30% profit, right? In the MREA model, we should be 40% profitable, 30% for business expenses, 30% for cost of sale. But I'm saying I'm going to add a little bit of a cushion of 30%. So you can change that number. If that's too high or too low or whatever, you can change it. So it's going to populate a new number for you. So if I add 30% profit on top, I'm getting here. Now I'm going to prepare for taxes because we have been kicked in the butt by Uncle Sam enough times to know that we have to think ahead. We have to start saving. So I'm going to go ahead and budget 15% for taxes. So again, it's going to populate this number for me. So this is my absolute minimum. So this is me covering my bills, living my life, running my business, right? Like I'm doing the things and doing it the way I want to do it. Nothing extra, but I'm doing it exactly the way that I want. Now, if I throw in a little extra profit, I want to have some additional savings. Maybe that's an ancillary goal that I have. I want to have some more savings. I want to have more in my rainy day fund. I'm going to put this in here because I would like a little bit more cushion. My word this year is margin. I would like some more margin in my finances and in my time and in all of the things. So I'm going to add a little bit of cushion here, and I'm going to make sure I'm planning for taxes. So I'm going to bump that up a little bit too. So this new number, this ideal minimum compensation per deal, is populated out of me running my business, living my life, saving a little bit extra, and making sure I can still cover my taxes. So now I know that all of my deals, no matter buyer or seller, I need to have at least $6,700 as my compensation fee. Okay. So again, this is just an example. Some of these numbers are real. Some of them are just completely made up. Again, I don't want to do 35 transactions. So in reality, I'm not going to do 35. So I would have to adjust that. But you can play with that. This blank form will auto-populate some things for you. So think about what you spend, what you want to do, where harmony lives for you. All right, I'm going to pause for a second. Any ahas?
I'm showing moving closer just so they can see you all.
Because my eyes are old and I cannot see. Okay, what is this? Okay, just
Where did you get confused?
for real estate. Exceptions.
The floor minimum. So that's like just to cover.
To
Yeah,
cover her basic expenses.
correct.
But she wants to build margin, so she added in and that's 30%.
MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, says that you should be 40, a good business is 40% profit. You're just doing 30.
Okay, and then additional savings for taxes.
15%.
Okay,
But
I do
if
like-
you know your tax bracket.
yes, okay, great. Now
Yeah,
that makes
maybe
sense.
15's too high. Maybe it's not enough. I just picked a number. That's all up that did there.
Okay, now it makes sense, now that I can actually see it.
Yeah. And this 30% for this additional profit, additional money, this is just a different version of the MREA's economic model. I'm not, I follow that one. I do evaluate my business. If I'm looking at the MREA model, I'm more like 67% profitable. If I use that traditional model. So even where I'm running today, I start at like 67%. So I'm adding a cushion so that 67 grows a little bit. So if I was at 67 before this example, and then I'm adding this other 30%, I'm going to build that, and maybe I bump up to more like 70% profitable, right? So it's not going from 69 to 99. It's just taking an incremental add, a 30% add of where my profit already was.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So
So I'm just adding a little bit of a cushion.
per beginning number, that includes per household. So
The floor. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, like what
Yeah.
I'm see it that close. But like, so would you back that? Oh, like if your spouse, if you have a spouse, is that
Mhm.
including all of that? So maybe you don't need to do total of 35 or
Yeah.
Oh,
So
no,
the way,
that's I got it. Okay, I couldn't see it. Sorry.
yeah,
Uh,
that's okay. That's okay. I did share this in the chat, and Erin has the link too, so she could send out the actual like workable version. So when you get this document, you'll have to make a copy of it, and then you'll have your own version. So the example, I locked it, so you won't be able to mess with the numbers, but you can see a real life example. And then the blank form, you can actually plug in. So let's say your monthly mortgage is $5,000, and so that's $60,000 a year, right? So now all of a sudden it's going to auto populate some things. So I'm just gonna throw in a couple numbers just to give it something to work with. Okay, so let's say I'm super slim. I have a giant house and I pay cash for everything else. I don't know. So my total annual budget is 63 in this example. And then my other income, let's say I have a partner, but they're making 20,000. Okay, so now the total budget is subtracting any other income, or maybe I have a side business that makes $20,000. So now my real estate business needs to make 43. Okay. And so now I'm like, well, I can do 25. That sounds good. I can handle 25. That means my minimum is $1,700. And then I'm looking at that and I'm going, ooh, that's pretty low. I don't think that I want to work that hard for that much money. So what if instead of 25, what if I only want to do 12, one a month? I only want to do 12 transactions. Okay, I don't know. Now my minimum is 35. Okay, that feels a little bit better. So then if I'm adding a little bit of a cushion for some additional profit and some tax planning, now my ideal minimum is 47. Oh, okay, well that makes a little bit more sense. Maybe if my, income is about here, 10% is probably okay. But if other things are in here, maybe 10% is too low. Maybe I'm making too much money and I really need to be more like the 18% tax bracket. Right. So you can kind of play with these and manipulate to see what it does, because maybe your budget, we're going to add another 0 on here. So maybe your budget is really high and you're like, I don't really want to work that hard. And you're like, I want to do 12. Well, I'm not in a market that's going to pay $65,000 per deal. So maybe that's not a realistic expectation. So maybe I need to look at, is my house too expensive? Do I live too lavishly? Or do I need to say, I need to buck up, Buttercup, and you need to do some more work. So maybe I do 2 a month and let's see what that does. Okay, it dropped it significantly. I'm still not in a market that's going to pay me $32,000 a transaction, but maybe you are. Maybe you're in the luxury market and that does make sense. So you can play with these and kind of decide like, 24 is still not enough. What if I bump it to 30? Okay, now we're getting a little bit more reasonable. Maybe I can just up my price point. Maybe I can focus on that luxury market and I can get there better, right? So you can play with all of these things. Everything's manipulatable. to see what you'll have to do.
Ideal minimum compensation per deal, that is the gross commission check that you're
Yep.
getting for the
Yep.
transaction. Because
Yep.
you've already taken consideration your splits and all that stuff.
That's why we put it in over here so that we make sure we're accommodating for that. So yeah, this just needs to be your gross. How
Perfect.
much are you putting on your listing agreements? How much are you putting on your buyer agreements?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you spoke earlier about, you have a sliding scale
Mm-hmm.
that you charge your clients. How does
Yep.
that work?
Are we
I
ready to
do
go back to presentation? Yep, I'll show you. I'll show you. Hang on one
Because
second.
somebody else has questions about it. They're all being pretty quiet. Lori's thinking ahead.
I like it. I like it. Okay. So we've identified the take-home requirements. We talked about how much we spend at home. We talked about how much we spend in our business. We added those together. We found our floor, and then we added a little bit of profit and some tax plan, right? Some money for taxes to make sure that we know how much we're worth, right? To keep harmony in our life, to make sure our business and our life are running the way we want them to run. Now we have those numbers. So how do you do all of those? How do you plug them all in? There's a screenshot of my thing. So I run a sliding scale. So I think maybe these are my real numbers, but you decide where your price point is. So I looked at my market, I looked at my history, and I went, oh, okay, based on my real records, this is what will make sense moving forward. You may be in a completely different price bracket and you look at mine and you're like, whoo, that ain't gonna work. That's okay, because these are your numbers. I'm going to show you the ones that I use, but you have to make this work for you. The whole point of this is for your business to support your harmony. And so it's not going to be the same as mine. Okay. We did all of this already, so I can skip that slide. Oh, I didn't put it on the slide deck. Okay. Give me 1 second and I will show you my sliding scale. So I picked price brackets. So I went to my markets. What's the right word I can use? Like what's common to see when you're talking about compensation for buyers and for sellers. So I looked at those numbers in historical. I've usually been paid these numbers for this type of client, and I've been paid these numbers for this type of client. So I took those real records, real things, and I said, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that I'm staying with the numbers that make sense for me, right? So that I can stay profitable, so that I can stay in my harmony. And I created this handy dandy little sliding scale. So this is my listing. I have the buyer. If I'm doing both, I did clear this with my broker. So like I'm calling it a bundle and I'm choosing to lower my listing compensation if you're doing a buy and sell with me. Did clear it through my broker. Please talk to your broker before you do that. So when I talk to listings, I have my flat fee. So my real number is $7,500. That's what I charge clients to run my business, to run my life, to run my business and have some profit built in. This is the real number. So I have figured out that in my market, it makes sense for me to say, if you are listing at 230,000 or less, we're going to be at a flat fee of $7,500. If we are listing between 231 and 426, because that's kind of a like first time home buyer-ish bracket, I'm going to charge 3.3% of the sale price, because I looked at my history, I looked at market history, and I said, this is a reasonable space for my market and my business to be. And then it bumps up. So I went from 427 to 626. That's more of like a move up buyer. Now I'm going down a little bit, because I know that at 7,500, I'm running my business the way I want to run, running my life the way I want to run, not doing more business than I actually want to do, and I'm still saving for taxes. So I know I'm profitable at $7,500. And so I did the math, and 3.3% of 231 is about $7,600. So anything higher is great, right? And then I did the math here. 3% of 427 is still more than $7,500. So I've chosen to give some of that back to my clients where I'm like, I'm profitable at 75. So as long as I make 75, I'm whole and I'm good. Everything else is cake, right? Or icing on my cake. So I've chosen to do this sliding scale like this. You may choose to say, well, this is my base package on my menu. And so going to these additional services is going to be this much more, right? And so maybe you have an exact calculation on what more you're adding. Or maybe you're just going to say, if I just bump it this much, I know I'm going to be more profitable. Your brackets may change. Your percentages may be different. Maybe this is my market and your market's like, whoa, that's not what we do here. Okay. You plug in what you do in your market. Like I said, this is what I present to my clients. And it may not work in other markets, especially. I know that some of my agents in my market look at it and they're like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, okay, don't. You do what you want. So then when I'm talking to sellers, because we don't negotiate buyer agent compensations, I say, here are my real numbers for buyers. When I have a buyer, this is what I talk to them about that I'm charging. So be prepared that a buyer's agent is probably going to ask you to pay them. And although I don't know what they're going to ask you to pay, this is what I ask. And so this will give you an idea of something to expect. Because, well, I don't know, am I supposed to pay this much? Am I supposed to only pay that much? It's a suggestion. So here are my real numbers, even for buyers. So in my history and in my market's history, buyer's agents have traditionally been paid a little bit less than listing agents. And so I had to compensate for those differences. So for buyers, my minimum kicks in under $275,000. So if I did my normal, my historical payout for buyers, I needed to use my flat fee at 275. But if we go 276, I can go to my historically average number for payout to make sure that I'm still profitable. Because remember, as long as I'm getting 7,500, I'm gold. Anything over that is extra. It's bonus. Because even this 75 for me and my lifestyle, it's already got that 30% profit built in. It's already got that 15% tax bracket built in. I think I did 15. I could have done something different too. But it's all built in. This is very, very strategic and specific. And so I know that no matter what, I'm profitable. I don't have to go, oh, I don't want to take that buyer because that price is too low. This is what I charge. Take it or leave it. So that's my sliding scale.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this, I actually have a couple questions. So
Sure.
my first, I've tried doing this in the past, but I don't have the confidence to do the tiered system yet. And I think that's really where I struggle with this. But I guess I'm curious to see the pushback that you have received from a tiered structure system, number one. And number two, when it comes to your buyers, is this the breakdown that you offer only for buyers who are buying and selling with you, or do you use this breakdown for everything? Because I just did the quick math, and 3% of 275, you're actually shorting yourself of what the traditional 3% is, because the 3% would be 8,200. So I guess, what is your reasoning behind that for even, let's just say, a first-time home buyer? Why do you not just go straight for the 3%, especially when most agents are willing to pay the 3%? I'm just curious how you put that on contracts so you get paid accordingly. Yeah.
So mine has been my market experience. So my market experience says that buyer's agents will not get 3%. So in my records, I was like, well, that's not going to happen for me. So I'm just not even going to broach that subject. And because I did the math, and because I've run all of the scenarios and I've figured out that 75 is my golden number, as long as I get 75, I'm good. Because that allows my household to run the way I want it to run my business the way that I want to run it, and to limit how many transactions I'm doing, right? And I still built in my profit. So I took a blind look at how much I thought I could get. And instead I looked at what do I need to get.
Okay.
So I took away I brought in like this, I'll call them social norms, like my historical evidence of payouts in the past. I did look at those to make sure that I was like sanity checking myself, but I didn't use that in my calculations.
Okay.
My calculations were completely made from the way that I want things to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
For our market, and anybody else in the room can correct me if I'm wrong, but for our market, we can get the 3%. So that's why I was
That's awesome.
That is average here. So I was just wondering.
That's awesome.
Okay. And I also came to the party. So sorry.
Yeah. All good. All good. So like I said, and I've tried to, because I'm trying to stay away from like any bad things, right? Like we all get to do whatever we want with all of our commissions. Minor examples, minor formulas for you to build what makes sense for you. So you have to look at your business and your life and your market. Like maybe my prices are wildly low. Maybe you are a luxury agent and you're like, I don't even touch it if it's not at least $500,000. Well, if I get over 500, I'm like, yes, because that's not my clientele. My clientele are first-time home buyers, move-up buyers, downsizers. Those are my normal people. So for me, this is what makes sense. But for you, it may be wildly off. So like I said, mine's just built on calculations, and it allows me to be in harmony with my life and my business. I don't want to work all the time. I have 2 tiny people, and we coach or participate in everything they do. And so my evenings are eaten up by kid stuff. And so I don't want to be showing houses 4 nights a week. I don't want to. And that's a decision that I've made for my business. And is it limiting me? Absolutely. But it's not limiting my time with my kids. So that's the sacrifice that I've decided to make.
How many transactions do you do in a year?
25 is my sweet spot. So
That's
I'll adjust, I'm not going to like turn down the 26th. But that's my goal. That's been consistently where I land the last several years. This year, I'm a little slow. I think our market is just not cooperating for anybody. But 25 is my sweet spot. So I shoot for 25 a year.
I love that.
Yep. And then you can do some of the calculations, like the business planning clinic will have you back into, okay, you want to do 25 units? Great. That means you have to be under contract this many times. That means you have to sign this many things. That means you have to go on this many appointments. That means you have to talk to this many people. You can back all the way into those things in other classes. This is strictly a budget, right? This is strictly you understanding your own value based on your lifestyle, your business, and the harmony that exists between those things.
What I really do appreciate about what you've created here is that you have truly created your life by design.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to work in the evenings and show houses because you've got kiddos. You don't have to, because you've created your life by design. So well done.
Yep. And I could reevaluate this every year as living expenses go up, right? Like I just got the lovely notice that my taxes went up, and so my mortgage payment went up, and I was like, great. So maybe this is something that you do every year, every 2 years, and reevaluate. I created this in 24, so it's probably time, honestly, for me to take a really good look at it and say, is this still working? Now, my husband's income has changed, so we're, maybe in my situation, we're different, but he owns his own business. So his income can change. If I had a partner who was strictly W-2, who we're going to see just incremental raises, but that's just offsetting cost of living, then maybe I do need to reevaluate this. So you can redo this at any time. And I encourage you to take a look at it and make sure that it's still making sense.
The thing with this, like Blake, too, you're never going to present this on a sliding scale to anybody, because the chances of a seller being between 231 and 426, like they're just in that bracket, right? Like, exactly. So it's not even going to be a sliding scale. You're just going to say, this is my rate or whatever,
This is my fee.
This is my fee.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. I've chosen to present all of this. This is actually a page out of my consultation packet. So I've chosen to present all of it, but you can decide not to. You can just say, this is how much I charge in this price bracket. You can do whatever you want. I'm a little more upfront and like open with people. And so I'll say like, this is my bracket and this is why I did it. I've run the numbers and this is what allows me to do the things that I need to do. And then when you get to these other price brackets, you can see that I'm actually charging you less because I'm whole. Sorry, there's a fly in my house. I'm whole. I have what I need. And so why am I going to just arbitrarily charge you more? And so that's a selling feature that I'm choosing to use. Like, I'm not going to just charge you more because I can. I'm not. I'm going to give that back to you. So for me, that's part of my value proposition. But you may choose not to do that.
So for your listing side, what I have used and the tiered system that I have is only for my listing side.
Yeah.
And that is based off of 3, 4, and 5% of what I would get from that transaction. But that's also included different things that I provide at that level of service. Like, for example, you know, my higher tier is everything from hiring contractors out there for you, you know, home maintenance, lawn care, hire photo packages and stuff like that. So I know that you do kind of the reverse in the sense of you give them a deal if they work with you on the buy and the sell, but you also provide other services as well with your tiered structures for your listings, or do you just keep it easy with the commission?
Yeah. So I've chosen not to do the menu thing. I've looked into it and I just said, I don't want to do it that way. So my listings get the same service across the board. Now we get to that upper price point. I'm going to start talking to my photographer about like fancier things. Right. But like for my value prop, I offer to send occupied listings. I send my stager to their house for a consultation. So I pay for that. I always pay for professional photos. And then if there's any marketing mailers, I don't do mailers. But like if I was going to do that for something, like those are just included. And so I offer the same package to all of my clients. There is a page in here where I will do like concierge services, kind of like to your point, but they're individual. So like, you want me to project manage? Great. That's going to be this much more. You want drone photos in a plain residential third of an acre lot? I mean, we can, but you're going to pay for that. So I have those as an extra, like you can do those things, but they're more of an a la carte instead of for this different pricing structure, you're going to get A, B, and C. For this bigger package, you're going to get A, B, C, and D. I've just chosen not to do it that way. I have plenty of people that have. I've seen other people's. I've looked into it. It's just more for me to keep track of than what I want to keep track of. And so I've chosen not to do that. But you could apply this to your menu, is what I've heard them called. What I would say and why I didn't do it is that I saw people like, oh, well, I'm going to go 1% up and then I'm going to do all these other things. And I was like, but that lawn care, that guy's going to charge you the same amount for whatever house. And if the price point is $100,000 different, like that's a big difference for your bottom line. So I would just make sure you're running the numbers and make sure that you are protecting yourself, because those contractors are all going to get paid whatever they're going to get paid, right? They're not going to adjust. So make sure you are protected and your bottom line is protected in those calculations. They can be, absolutely.
I like the a la carte menu idea, but how do you, let's just say, how do you charge that, right? So like if you agree with a 3%, but then they choose X, Y, and Z on your a la carte menu, how do you add that to the Alta statement? Do you add that in part, like, do you just do the quick math and you add that in your commission, or do you actually line item those things on the final Alta statement so they can see that those a la carte items are on there and those just get allocated to you, the agent?
Nobody's actually taken me up on these yet, so I don't have the answer to that. What I think I would do on our listing agreements, we charge like, this is how much I'm going to charge, right? You can charge a dollar amount or a percentage. We have blanks for both. And then there's a separate section that's like additional compensation. And like, that's where if I'm going to charge for my transaction coordination, that's where I put that. My fee is $350. Like she charged me $350, so I charge $350. So if someone was going to do that, I think that's the spot I would put these additional numbers on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Nobody's taking me up on it. So I haven't actually worked through all the details yet, but it's here in case people choose to do that.
Anybody else have questions? This is part one.
Yes.
Next Thursday at 11:30, he's going to dive into part two on how to actually deliver your, is it mission statement, value statement,
Yeah, it's your value proposition.
your value proposition?
Like it's kind of your elevator pitch.
Yes. So
Yeah.
we're going to dive into that. Same kind of structure, but it'll be for 30 minutes. So you can either join online via Google Meet, or you can come in here and we'll work through that together.
Yeah. I do find that that part of this exercise is best with someone that you know and trust, because you have to take your humble hat off. I know that we tend to undersell ourselves and we tend to, oh, well, I don't know. You have to take all of that off. You have to brag. You have to be like, no, I am good at these things, right? Like all of the affirmations that you're afraid to say to yourself, you have to be willing and ready to say them out loud in order to make it through this exercise, because the goal is for you to walk away with a 1-sentence elevator pitch about why you are worth whatever amount you're going to charge. Maybe your number is $10,000. Like in my market, that's wild. But if you have a value statement to back it up, you're going to get clients, right? Like you are worth what you are worth. And if you have the confidence to come out and say, this is what I'm worth, people are going to pay it.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Thank
2 minutes. We did it.
All right.
And Erin's got my contact info. So if anybody has specific questions, if you want to do one-on-one, like run something with me, if you want me to look at your numbers or you're like, I don't think I'm doing this right, please let me know. I'm a teacher. In real life,
yes.
I was a teacher, but like for real, I'm still a teacher. So let me know if I can help with this. I was trying to say as generic as possible. Remember, these are your numbers. You get to do whatever you want with them. I'm just showing you my examples to say this is how I'm implementing. But you have to make this work for you. Maybe my numbers are way too high or way too low for the way that you need to run things. You get to decide.
When first the number yeah, okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. That was all.
All right.
Megan.
Hope to see you all next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.